So, Mark, did you see that picture of the opening day of Excalibur in 1990? I had forgotten just how much greenery there was around Excalibur, plus that the bottom of the building was a different color. It looks so different today, especially after they removed all that water around the front.
Look at those colors too. They pop really well. It looks amazing. You miss that in Vegas, having greenery, land space that isn't kind of cannibalized nowadays when they're trying to maximize it profit at every single area. They could bring it back with the green AstroTurf that they have at other MGM properties.
Yeah, AstroTurf is the solution. It reminded me, though, I was at Luxor the first week that it was open, and, they rushed the construction of that, so it wasn't completely done. And I remember watching workers lay sod all around the pyramid. Of course, none of that's still there really anymore either. So, yeah, a different time in Las Vegas, but Excalibur really looked good. For all those people who hate it, look at it back in the day.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised it was the biggest hotel in the world at the time, right? 4,000 plus rooms. The dirty castle lives on. Don't tear it down. We need it.
So, Mark, on the subject of removing water, a rumor came out of Screamscape this week, and we've talked about New York removing the water around the Statue of Liberty, and Excalibur, like we just discussed, removing the water near the entrance, replacing it with those decorative sand things that they did. You wanted dune, but they gave you decorative sand and rocks. But TI is the rumor is that TI may be removing some of the water around the famous bay there. And Screamscape does say that perhaps they would do it in a way where they add sand and make it look like the ships are kind of shipwrecked. So maybe there would still be some water. But this show, obviously, it debuted in 1993 when Treasure Island opened. And then it changed 10 years later to Sirens of TI. And then 10 years after that, in 2013, it closed forever. In fact, they closed it temporarily to build that CVS, and then they just never reopened it. They said they were going to, and they never did. But I guess 10 years again, and maybe it's time for it to go.
I mean, that's where Vegas is at these days. Anything that's like a free strip side, roadside show is gone or leaving very soon. So it's sad to see. I remember walking through that area, and I don't really go up towards Treasure Island all that much, but I remember walking through and just everybody stopped, and it being like a mad gob of people to watch the Sirens show, not even that long ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago. So it's kind of crazy to see that it's just there, sitting there, not being used, and it was kind of a big draw to get people into that area where there's not normally a lot of foot traffic. So you would like to see something done there, but I'm just tired of sand and AstroTurf.
Yeah, I mean, I think potentially if they did this right and spent the money, it would look really nice if you put in some cool little islands there and made it look like that. Right now, they're just fountains. But I don't think that they're going to, if they're going to do this, I doubt they're going to spend a ton of money on really top quality theming like what you had when this was built. Steve Wynn was really channeling Disney, especially in this era, and especially with Treasure Island. And so this whole area was built really to Disney kind of theming standards. And, I don't know. I hope that it just stays the way it is. But with all the water getting removed, I wouldn't be surprised if it's gone tomorrow.
You talking about this makes me just realize what's happening in Vegas. Vegas is gentrifying Steve Wynn out of Vegas, essentially.
Steve Wynn who? I mean, come on. Who's that guy?
Exactly.
So we're going into the summer season, so I guess it's time for our annual checkup on dirty pools. And this week, a story came out that Planet Hollywood's 2 pools were closed by the health district for chemistry issues and also for lifeguards not paying attention, I guess, and not following the rules. And they're working to get it all reopened. But just a reminder that these pools aren't always the cleanest. And if it's hazy in any way, probably stay out of it, or at least that's my personal advice. But yeah, we seem to get these stories now every year.
If it's a day club, you're definitely swimming with poo and pee-pee. But, I was thinking about this. I'm like, anybody that's staying there or booked ahead of time, especially this time of year, is probably like, I want to go to the pool, or that's a big key to their travel. So I hope they're getting some type of compensation, especially since this is, all on Planet Hollywood and Caesars for not upkeeping it and not taking care of things the way they should, which is, we've talked about as a problem with Caesars across all their properties right now, just letting disrepair happen. But then I think back on my time at Planet Hollywood and in the pool area, and I'm like, are they really missing much? It's one of the worst pool areas, in my opinion, in Vegas.
But they did say that guests can use Paris's pool, Paris's big bathtub pool, or the pool over at Horseshoe, but not the same as, going downstairs and using the pool at your hotel. And they are working to get it reopened. So Hopefully this will be a wake-up call, especially the lifeguard standard. We want everybody to be safe out there. So hopefully this is just a wake-up call to them. Speaking of wake-up calls, Mark, Adele got a wake-up call. We're going to switch to entertainment news here for a second. What a crazy story. I've never seen anything like this. TMZ reporting that Adele was complaining about her residency, that she suffers from jock itch, I guess from the show, or the outfit that she wears during the show and all the hot lights and everything else. I guess it's just an occupational hazard.
Has she never performed before? I don't understand why this is like surprising. You picked the costumes, like you were involved in that decision. Maybe you should have thought about it. I don't know. I don't really feel bad. Maybe she just isn't used to doing so many shows in a row. It just seems weird to me. But yeah, you don't expect a singer to come out and say they have jock itch.
I wonder how thrilled she is about this story. Like, on one hand, sometimes celebrities plant stories so that they get covered. But I doubt that this is one that she planted. I can't imagine she's too happy about this being reported on TMZ.
I don't know. I think it's funny. So maybe no bad press, right? As they say.
So on the other show note, Awakening is finally returning to Wynn. That's going to be on June 30th. And an interesting thing happened this week. Vital Vegas tweeted that he snuck in behind the scenes. And then obviously Awakening used that. So I don't know why he didn't just say I was invited to Awakening to go preview this. Obviously he had nice things to say, but who knows. But I guess the big news is that they're returning June 30th. And hopefully the show will be better received this time. And it will be successful because we want more of these big budget shows coming to Las Vegas, unique shows that are developed for the market. So if this fails, it's probably going to be a bad sign for future shows at other properties because it costs a lot of money to develop it. And if they don't get their money back, nobody else is going to invest.
Yeah. And, Le Rev was beloved and one of the better shows, in our opinion, in Vegas. So to see this come in and not do so well and kind of have a lot of kinks and people give it bad reviews, you want it to do good. And kicking off like last week's show a little bit, the Knights came into Vegas and, they did really well right from the get-go, sold out a lot of games, had a lot of support. That's a big reason why the Raiders came, why the A's want to come, why they want to bring an NBA team. Like if the Knights failed, nobody would be like, oh, let's bring 5, 6, pro sports team to the area. So I think you want this to, even if you don't care about the show, you want it to do well to give it, leeway for other shows to be made that are in the similar vein.
So bringing up the Knights, Mark, maybe we should talk about all the controversy from the last show. You said the Knights
the fake controversy.
Yeah. And we love to keep a positive atmosphere here, so we really hate when people start going crazy in the comments. And you said that the Knights were the first major league team in Las Vegas, and that's why it was so important that they won the championship. Everybody interpreted you saying that this was the first major championship, which it's not. The WNBA Aces are. We have talked about it at least 3 different times on this show. And a lot of people get mad at us for saying that the Aces were the first major championship, but that's what we both think and agree with. And you didn't say what people thought you said. But the Knights did predate the Aces. They were here in 2017. That is our first major league team in the city, and it's very special for that reason. And that's why the championship 6 years later is so special. But it isn't the first major championship. And how great is it for Las Vegas that we have 2 of them within the course of less than a year?
Not only were they the first major league sports team to come in, but they were the only homegrown one that didn't come from somewhere else. And it will be that way until, maybe the NBA has a franchise start up in Vegas. But I think that adds to it. They'll always have a special place in people's hearts because of that. And that's all I meant.
Moral of the story, we love the Aces. We love the Knights. The Golden Knights are Vegas born. They're very special, especially around the October 1st shooting. And they deserve to be talked about. But again, the Aces did win the championship, and the WNBA championship was a huge deal, and it continues to be, and we love the Aces as well. So let's move on to Caesar's Palace. So they tweeted out this thing saying, we had this jackpot winner. He won $1 million over 3 days, 2 $400,000 jackpots and a $200,000 jackpot playing video poker. This was covered by local media as well. Vegas tourist makes $1 million over 3 days. But nobody talks about the fact that he was betting $500 a hand, $100 denomination video poker. And, it's really so dishonest the way. I get it why Caesar's Palace wants to market this, but I mean, how much did this guy lose? I mean, when you're betting 500 a hand, winning 40,000, it's a jackpot, but it's not something, along the lines if you're betting $1.25 or a couple bucks a hand.
Yeah, he spent $2 million to win $1 million. Way to go, guy. No, I mean, I saw some, people comment about this on Twitter, but it just shows like how much the media plays into the casinos. We talked about it about like suicides in Vegas and stuff, how they're never covered properly, and even the robbery spree that we saw, like the details are very vague and they don't give a lot and it's kind of hidden. And this is another thing, like, hey, Caesar says a guy won $1 million and they just take it and run with it when you're betting $500 a hand, that money doesn't last so long. Like, that's an insane amount. I don't think he's super surprised to win a lot. He probably has lost that much in a trip. So the swings are pretty big at those rates, and the fact that nobody really mentions it is kind of crazy.
Yeah, and all you had to do was look at the thing they tweeted out, because you can see the pictures of the machines and you can see how much he's betting. And I just wish that when these things are covered that they would say that stuff. He won it on a $500 bet. And then it puts it in more context, but that's
it wasn't even a royal,
marketing.
was it? It was like
No,
it
I
was
think
like 4 of a kind
kind.
with a kicker. Like, that's not a big deal. Everybody that plays video poker gets that. I mean, like, it's nice, but that's not a jackpot.
Yeah, I mean, $1 million, Mark, $1 million. We got it. That's the magic number that you got to put out there. So Vegas Loop is back in the rumor mill, and this is Las Vegas Locally reporting that he has a source saying that they are finally developing a van, a 12-seater van, based on some sort of a Tesla
vans.
prototype.
Yes.
But I mean, when they announced this system years and years and years ago for the Las Vegas Convention Center, they released this concept art I'll put up on the screen that showed this, multi-passenger vehicle, and then they just sort of never talked about it again. And maybe, we're finally going to get that. I wouldn't be surprised. The system, as big as it's going to be, they have limited tunnels and capacities. So having a higher capacity vehicle that also fits within the tunnel is going to be, tricky, because it has to be the width of a Tesla. It has to be electric as well because of the ventilation. They probably need this, but I still think it's probably going to be years before we see it.
Yeah, I think this is the only way it's viable long term, is if they get something that can fit more than 3 or 4 people. Because it's just going to be a traffic jam in tunnels, essentially, with all these cars driving around, and the manpower needed to run it. The costs are going to be astronomical, and the fees will go up. But like we've seen with Uber, once they got rid of all the subsidies, things got pretty expensive when they tried to make money. So I fear that that's going to happen here. Like, it'll roll out, be super cheap, and people will get on board, and then you'll slowly see those prices go up unless they find a way to defray the cost across multiple people. And this really has to happen for this to make sense long term.
Yeah, and we're still years away from the wider Vegas Loop really being a reality, with all of the stations that they've announced and had approved. And just in the last few months, we've seen the county and the city of Las Vegas approve a ton of stations. So I think, what was it, 69 stations that they're up to. So I wouldn't be surprised if, when that system fully gets built out, we have something like this. I mean, that gives them years of time to develop it and test it. And, in reality, with the short system they have now, they probably don't need that. So maybe they're just getting out ahead of themselves. And maybe this will shut the people up who hate it, saying that we should just build a train. Because I imagine these vehicles are still significantly cheaper than building a train underground.
I'm still cool with them putting like a track in and then making like a van on a track. I think that would be fine.
So the Vegas Sphere is moving into its next phase of testing, and we saw videos just this week of finally some animation on the screens on the outside. We had seen static tests for quite a long time, and now I guess it's nothing crazy, right? It's just some stripes going across. But it does open your mind up to the possibilities of what this thing will look like when it opens in just a few months. And, it's cool to see, after all these years of seeing it get built, something animated. And I think it kind of opened my eyes up to seeing, the advertising potential for this. I'm sure they're going to charge a pretty penny, but putting ads up on this, I mean, it's very visual from so many places in the city.
Yeah, it reminds me of Silicon Valley, where they're out in the desert and that thing like blows up as their system gets better and you can see it from the airplane and stuff. And, what if you could see ads from the airplane? How much can you charge for that if they can, make it big enough? It'd be kind of crazy. I'm excited to see it in person in December when I go. Hopefully it should be fully functioning by then, and they'll be doing everything they want to do with it, I would imagine. Because every time I see it on video or picture or whatever, it just looks fake. Like, it's so it's real, but it just doesn't really seem that way, which is kind of crazy when you think about it.
Yeah, I think the cool thing about these videos and why everybody was reacting to it is because maybe it came to life for the first time. This is the first time it had some life to it. Static images were one thing in colors, but now it has some life. And indeed, they can do far more than what these tests are doing with these simple stripes going across it. So, they can put whole graphics packages. They've said they're going to do holiday programs. I mean, this really could be something cool. or it will be something cool. I have no doubt about that. The finances aside. So excited to see, it moving towards that. And we're just, a few months away from it finally opening up.
You know what would have been really cool? If they kept the world's longest bar in there.
Mark can't get over the world's longest. That piece of news was devastating.
Let's build it, scrap it. I don't get it, but it would have been awesome. I would have actually bought a movie ticket.
So finally, our major story of this week, Resorts World is launching their new ad campaign called Rule the World. And basically, they're reimagining the whole way that they market this property. And they say it's based on, how the property has developed. We did a show maybe 5-6 months ago saying how Resorts World is improving and how they've constantly changed with different events like the winter event, tiki bars, and all kinds of different restaurants and venues. It's very modern. I've also said how it's really grown on me since it opened, and I just visited the last time on Cinco de Mayo, and they're basically kind of saying we attract all kinds of different people, and we have experiences for everybody, for depending on what they like. And I kind of noticed that when I was there on Cinco de Mayo. And this campaign is crazy because you have everything from, young people, partying in the nightclub to old guys smoking cigars in the cigar lounge, everything in between. So they really are saying we are something for everybody. And usually that's not great, but I think they are starting to pull that off. Of course, a lot of competition coming across the street.
Yeah, I mean, they've kind of just been like a hodgepodge of things since opening and trying different things. So I get why they're leaning this away. They're leaning into it saying, we've done a little bit of everything. So maybe we are a little bit for everybody. I just don't know that works, most of the time. Look at Sears. If you want a prom dress and a hammer, we got it all. That didn't work. People want niche things. Cosmo works because they know what they are and they are going for that crowd. And I think Fountain Blue will kind of do that similar thing. I imagine they're going to be like, this is our niche, we're going to stay in it. And I just worry that when you try to be everything for everybody, you're really nothing. So it remains to be seen. I give them credit. They seem to be, willing to adjust very quickly, which you don't see a lot in these bigger companies. So that's cool to see. And I hope they really do well. They definitely are trying, versus like a Virgin that's just kind of like, hey, we kind of missed on this one. Let's just sit back here and die slowly. So, I hope it works out, but I don't know.
We've got to add to the MTM Vegas drinking game. There's the Chris Angel references, which we haven't had one in a while. And then there's every time Mark trashes Virgin because especially when we're talking about Resorts World. But back to Resorts World, a lot of people are saying, it's curious for them to be reinventing themselves 2 years after they opened. But I think to your point, they're just sort of kind of honing in the message and tweaking what they've done. They've done a great job with the entertainment, and that was really their focus on their marketing when they launched. And now they're trying to go beyond that, say we do have all this great entertainment, and that's definitely a part of the ad, but we have all these sort of lifestyle experiences within the property as well. And, the casino has done fairly well. We know the hotel occupancy has been pretty good, and they've been disadvantaged because of their location, which I think will be helped by Fountain Blue, honestly, because they are on a bit of an island up there. So I think the future's bright for the property, and it's very reflective of what the property is today. And a lot of people seem to like it. Some people don't. And, chime in the comments, because I know a lot of our people that watch this show don't really love it.
Yeah, I think, as that area grows, and my biggest problem with Resorts World was always like the food and the options and them closing it earlier than I thought they should. And some of that was staffing early on, but they still don't really, there's not a lot in the area, like Pepper Mills has hourly issues. The taco places get insanely busy. So I think adding Fountain Blue, adding some more stuff to kind of spread people out a bit might help, and just have more options. Like when you're down there at Resorts World, you're kind of far away from everything, and that's a hindrance. You can't walk too much. You got to hop on an Uber or a cab, and that's a problem with all this construction and stuff. So the fact that they're doing that well with all those roadblocks is pretty impressive when you really think about it. And I think it's just going to get better for sure down the line.
Circus needs to bring back the Pink Pony Cafe so people can go in the middle of the night.
$1.50 hot dogs. Do it.
The Pink Pony Cafe was the place to hang out in the middle of the night back in the day, the old coffee shop at Circus. They could really use that. But let us know in the comments what you think about Resorts World being reimagined. Those vans for Vegas Loop, is that going to help? Anything else that we discussed in this show? Excalibur, oh, it looked great back in 1990. Hit us up in the comments. We do 2 shows a week, Tuesdays and Fridays, and we'll be back in just a few days with another show. Thanks so much for watching. Talk to you next time.
They should turn Slots of Fun into the Mermaids place from Fremont of Pass. We need like a trashy dive place with cheap food right there. It'd be perfect. All right. See you guys next week.
You're going to end every show by saying what they should do to Slots of Fun.
That's the new thing.